What do you mean?
Say something then. Fucking stop.
People in power have misused it, and now there has to be a change, and a better world has to be built.
There's one thing sympathising to Islam, but sitting taking a photo with the Quran, fuck off, Dan. How much you get paid for that? Same as SNEAKO, same as all you. Yeah? How much money?
All you cats. Fuck off with your Quran. I did not know that before I came Muslim, how angry people would get from the Quran. When Dan is like for 10 years doing content with girls and doing big parties and alcohol, drugs, like nobody cares. Dan reads the Quran, they lose their minds.
Qatar or Dubai or Saudi funded you, whilst you throw the accusations and you're getting paid for that.
We've seen you next to IDF soldiers. We've seen you with your Israeli sponsors. But the reason he gets so angry is because he's Mossad funded.
Sitting with the Quran, the book that hates you, like some scholar. You absolute dick.
What are these British insults? Like, they're lucky to have this accent because you could just say stuff and it sounds bad.
Absolute wrong'un, man.
You absolute wronger. You sausage. He's just saying breakfast food. You scrambled eggs. You this pancake in it.
All influencers now are being influenced with money.
You waffle.
Iranian, Saudi, Qatari.
He's just saying countries. I've never been to Qatar. I know like 2 Iranians. And you know what's funny? If Saudi said, hey, you're promoting Islam, you're doing a good job, I think I would take it. Because you just lose. You get banned from platforms, you get so many enemies, you trigger people, you're limited with content, you can't do gambling. If they offered and said, hey, great job, here's some oil money for your work, I'm taking it.
Dan, who's Armenian, so his whole family were massacred in genocide by Islamic supremacists, is now holding up the book of the Islamic supremacists. You mug. They probably quoted that
you
book.
mug, you waffle, you muffin.
It's easy to hate Islam. No one wants to kill you. No one's saying shit, yeah? To talk against the Quran, to talk against Islam, Dan. Big brave Dan. Yeah? You won't walk down the street the way you do, yeah? Because you'll have people want to confront you, right? That's when you're not a sheep. When you stand up for something and people want to kill you for it. Yeah? No one wants to kill you for chatting shit about Israel. There's no risk in that, you pussies.
What do you mean?
Say something then. Fucking stop.
In fact, it's easy. Get loads of likes. You don't have to walk down the street facing a barrage of violence. But then, when people do stand up to the ideology that wishes to oppress, subjugate you, massacre your women, then when people do, it's easy to attack them as well.
Who is Tommy Robinson and who helped him get to where he is today? When we look into the background of the organisation he founded, the English Defence League, we could take the view that it was intended to be an offshoot of the terrorist Zionist organisation, the JDL, the Jewish Defence League. In fact, his co-founder at the English Defence League was an individual who called himself Paul Ray. Paul Ray, prior to founding the English Defence League, infiltrated the International Solidarity Movement, a pro-Palestinian organisation which Rachel Corrie had been a member of. Paul Ray infiltrated and spied on this pro-Palestinian organisation and then submitted the information to several different intelligence agencies. Following his work for Israel, Paul Ray founded the English Defence League with Tommy Robinson. When it came time for the English Defence League to be registered on Companies House, that was carried out by a former Israeli soldier, Roberta Moore. Moore led what they called the EDL's Jewish unit, which regularly partnered with the Zionist Federation to hold demonstrations outside the Israeli embassy. Roberta Moore is pictured here with the vice chair of the Zionist Federation at the time, Jonathan Hoffman.
Jonathan Hoffman is a former vice chair of the Zionist Federation. Members of the racist English Defence League, or EDL, attended a demonstration that Hoffman helped organise. He is photographed alongside Roberta Moore, the founder of the EDL's Jewish division. She will later express her admiration for Anders Breivik, the neo-Nazi who murdered 77 people in Norway.
When Roberta Moore was asked if the EDL was exploiting the Zionist movement, she replied, "If anything, we are exploiting them.
I received these packages today.
He's admired somewhat as one of the brains of the EDL. He's just got a delivery of quotes from the Quran from his researcher in Israel.
Roberta Moore is pictured here alongside the head of the Canadian branch of the Zionist terror organization, the JDL, and the genocidal Israeli politician Moshe Feiglin, who has called for the complete annihilation of all human life in Gaza. On the 28th of February 2013, the English Defence League, as registered on Companies House, was changed. The name of the organisation became the Jewish Defence League, JDL UK. It's important to remember that the JDL is designated as a terrorist organisation by the US government. It was founded by Meir Kahane, the well-known Israeli fascist, who advocated for the complete ethnic cleansing of Palestine. But the connections of Tommy Robinson and the English Defence League to the JDL do not end there. One of the earliest supporters of the EDL and a regular speaker at their rallies outside of the Israeli embassy was none other than Rabbi Nachum Shifrin.
How would you feel if one day your children or your grandchildren are saying 5 times a day, Allah Akbar? Well, this is what is coming down on you here and now. It will be recalled on this day that it was the EDL that started the liberation of England.
Nachum Shifrin was the driver for the founder of the JDL, Meir Kahane. The only other time the English Defence League was registered on Companies House was by Tommy Robinson's personal assistant, Helen Gower. When she registered the organisation, the name was the English and Jewish Defence League. So the question has to be asked here, was Tommy Robinson's English Defence League founded to be an offshoot of the Zionist terrorist organisation, the JDL? And if so, why hasn't that been mentioned or written about extensively in the British media? Tommy Robinson then went on to be a Shillman Fellow at the David Horowitz Freedom Centre. Now, the David Horowitz Freedom Centre shares funders with the Friends of the IDF and illegal settlements in the West Bank. But that position was directly funded by tech billionaire Robert Shillman. Who is Robert Shillman? Well, he was a board member on the Friends of the IDF at the very same time that he was funding Tommy Robinson to the tune of £8,000 a month, according to his other former assistant, Lucy Brown. Here we see Robert Shillman speaking at the Zionist Organization of America and describing his pen and his checkbook as weapons.
With this pen and my checkbook, I provide ammunition. I wield a pen to provide ammunition to those organizations like ZOA who are on the front lines in this battle.
Tommy Robinson has also received funding from the US neocon think tank, the Middle East Forum, which was quoted 13 times by Anders Breivik in his manifesto he released before killing over 70 people. The head of the Middle East Forum is Greg Roman, who's a former employee of the Israeli Ministry of Foreign Affairs and the Israeli Ministry of Defense. Now, all of these connections would certainly cause you to question where Tommy Robinson's ultimate loyalties lie, especially when he has been pictured on the top of a tank in the Israeli-occupied Golan Heights of Syria and stated so clearly that he would enter a war on behalf of Israel.
If there was a war tomorrow, which there will be, because I'll probably start at the end of the session, if there was a war and it kicked off, I would be there on the front line fighting for Israel.
Save our kids? What about the 20,000 kids killed by Israel in Gaza? When Israel killed 3 former British soldiers with an airstrike in Gaza, what was the response of Britain's patriot, Tommy Robinson? British people that do aid work in Gaza are cucks. Play stupid games, win stupid prizes. How can Tommy Robinson define himself as a patriot but speak with such callousness about the death of former British soldiers? I think Tommy Robinson owes an apology to the families of John Chapman, James Kirby, and James Henderson. Those who serve as an attachment to the war industry have sought to pin the blame for what is happening in this country on Russia. It's interesting because there is far more of a material connection between Tommy Robinson and a particular genocidal ally in the Middle East.
One of the chief instigators of these riots is someone called Tommy Robinson. And you can see him here wearing a t-shirt of the Israeli Defense Forces. He is openly taking photographs, posing with the genocidal army. He's gone to occupy Palestine illegally and taken photos on top of Israeli tanks. And we know for a fact that his benefactors, his patrons, are Israelis, right? His legal fees have been paid by Israelis, by Zionists. And he goes on Israeli television and he admits that all of these riots, these pogroms, are related to October 7th. Basically admitting that, well, you know, he doesn't like that people are protesting against genocide. So advancing an Israeli agenda, which is what? Which is Islamophobia, which is anti-Arab racism. Tommy Robinson. That's not his real name. This guy has about 5 different names. We think his real name is Stephen Yaxley Lennon. This guy calls himself, you know, a massive English patriot. But ironically, his stepfather is Scottish and his mother is Irish. So, you know, when you have someone like that calling other people less English and changing his name to something more English, from Yaxley Lennon to Robinson, he fled the United Kingdom just a few days ago. How can someone call themselves an English patriot and they have such disregard and contempt for the law? Again, you want to talk about illegal immigrants? This guy literally entered the United States with a fake passport. I mean, the hypocrisy is rank. No one is more illegal than American troops on foreign soil. No one is more illegal than British spy planes buzzing over Gaza or French troops occupying Africa, okay? Those people you're calling immigrants are refugees. They're running away from our mess. We bombed their homes. We killed their friends. We killed their families. We left them jobless. We destroyed their economies. We destroyed them with sanctions. We looted and robbed their resources for centuries. Thieving to the point they can't recover and stand up on their own 2 feet. We kept drilling this into their heads, how the white man is so much better. And now that they want to come over and take a look and see where their money went, you put up a wall? If only there was a wall to stop your thieving ass 300 years ago. If only. You know, the same people whining about migrants, they want Arabs to tolerate Israeli invaders. These are people with weapons, with tanks, with nuclear bombs, and they encourage British Jews or European Jews to leave the country because they're so anti-Semitic. They want them to just leave the country and go to Palestine and emigrate on top of somebody else's land and give them bombs too. Christ, I mean, double standard is really, you know, is really an understatement. You want to stop people from exercising their right under international law to seek asylum? Fine, but don't turn around then and lecture the world about human rights the next morning, all right? And don't talk to me about securing our borders. Our borders are perfectly fine. We have nuclear weapons. We have one of the best navies in the world. It's Arab borders that need securing from us, okay? It's African borders that need securing from the West. The top 3 countries that produce refugees are Ukraine, Syria, and Afghanistan. All of these countries have one thing in common. They've been bombed and destroyed by NATO. All right. The West invaded and destroyed these countries. How bizarre that Tommy Robinson / Stephen Yaxley Lennon / Paul Harris / Israeli Zionist name won't mention any of this. The far right in France, in Britain, in America won't mention sanctions, bombs that create the refugees that they keep whining about so much. If you're so worried about foreigners coming to the country, then stop bumming people, stop stealing their resources, and mind your business. All right. Otherwise, you can fuck off and shut your damn mouth. And thank your lucky stars, by the way, that these refugees you demonize so much are innocent, decent human beings who aren't vengeful little gobshites like yourself. Demonetize my channel because I'm not allowed to say naughty things about Israel. You know, telling the truth is forbidden. So if you are able to donate a few dollars on PayPal or on a monthly basis on Patreon, please consider doing it because it would really help me continue my journalism and support independent media. So I'd be very grateful. And the links are in the description and also in the chat. Thank you guys very much again for all your donations and all your kind comments. I appreciate it very much.
I set this up last night, and I'm going to give this to ADIN. Maybe I'll cross-stream it, but I think it's better on ADIN's platform anyway. Dan Bilzerian has agreed to debate our good friend Tommy Robinson, who's been saying I'm paid by Saudi and Iran and all this. I was on the phone with Dan Bilzerian last night. they could do it on Piers Morgan, but I think ADIN stream is bigger. So I'll help him moderate that. I know Tommy has like some choice things to say about me, but I'm going to be a neutral moderator.
Wait, that's actually putting W's and Yo's.
This is huge. This is huge. Dan Bilzerian crushed Patrick Bet-David. So they're opposites. Tommy Robinson is going to be on the side of the Zionists, and Dan Bilzerian is going to be side on like pro-Palestine. And they have already some disagreements. They kind of have some beef and going back and forth about Islam and stuff because Dan Bilzerian's reading the Quran. There's a lot to discuss. So, yeah, Tommy, going to be neutral. It's going to be hosted on his platform.
Is Tommy pro-Israel or pro-Palestine?
Pro-Israel.
He is, okay.
Yeah.
Tommy, I got you. I'm kidding. It's a joke. It's a joke.
It's Jew and a Muslim, so it's not going to be...
I'm also... Yeah, you know what? It's a Jew and a Muslim, and moderating is a Jew and a Muslim.
What happened to the debate? Did Tommy Robinson back out?
Yeah, so Dan was down, Tommy backed out. Why? I don't even know about this Tommy guy. I don't even know why. He backed out, yeah.
Well, basically, you don't know the backstory. I think some of the chat might know, but he's like one of the biggest Islam haters in the world. And he doesn't like real confrontation. He likes to talk behind his phone and stir up drama and riots and then runs away when the time comes. It would have been a good debate. Dan Bilzerian is a good opponent for him. His excuse was that he wanted to do it in person. He can't even come to America.
He's banned?
Yes. And he yells about illegal immigration. He cannot come to this country.
Wait, how does somebody get banned from like coming to America? I don't even understand.
Certain felons are not allowed to come here, and I think he tried to come here on an expired visa or something.
Gotcha.
He's done 3 years in jail. It's an interesting story.
Gotcha.
This is the man behind it all.
They shouldn't be here.
Tommy Robinson. This is what's happening to Muslims in the UK. Attacks on Muslim couples, Muslim graves, mosques, and Muslim-owned businesses. And this is the man behind it all.
They shouldn't be here.
Tommy Robinson, the far-right racist and anti-Muslim leader of the English Defence League, who are wreaking havoc in the UK. All the while, he's sunbathing in Cyprus, getting a tan. Tommy Robinson has been responsible for instigating the violence and riots that are plaguing the UK. A man who is financially backed from Zionists and far-right organisations. A proud supporter of Israel.
I would be there on the front line fighting for Israel.
But he's also a bit of a hypocrite, getting arrested in Canada for, believe it or not, breaking immigration laws. And even accidentally posting a text message from his financial advisor quitting on him, who was, by the way, a Muslim. But he's not the only one responsible. Far-right supporters and figures are spreading the misinformation and hate speech that has led to the riots that we are seeing. And what's even more shocking is the UK's media and newly appointed Prime Minister are failing to call these attacks for what they are: blatant Islamophobia and racism. Instead, they are calling it this.
Pro-British march on one side of the town hall here.
Anti-immigration protesters were confronted by a group of up to 300 masked people shouting Allahu Akbar.
But what has been the response from the Muslim and wider public? Imams are calling for peace in their local communities, and non-Muslims are extending their hands in protecting and rebuilding damaged mosques, with some rioters even realizing their wrongs in the process.